Stuart Pike and Paul Nicholson.
Yes, thanks Tara. 4 terrific games to look forward to. Phil Taylor, the defending champ. Peter Wright has appeared in 2 World Series finals already. James Wade would love to get to another final, having lost the World Match Play to Michael van Gerwen last month in Blackpool. Very convincing in the opening round against the Aussie qualifier Adam Rowe. And Peter Wright also convincing in his win over Paul Nicholson. Hence Paul with us in commentary for quarterfinals night. Welcome. Too close to call this.
It is too close to call, Stu. I've been in the venue for a couple of hours now, and I've been asking a lot of people about what's going to happen in this game, and nobody can call it.
Well, Wade against Wright, the winner will play either Van Gerwen or Van Barneveld in the semi-finals. Russ Bray in charge, and it is game on. Day 2 here at the Perth Darts Masters. Of course, next week we head to Sydney, then to Auckland, as the sport of darts continues to grow. Talk of a couple more events maybe on the World Series calendar in 2016. But for now, the here and now is Perth and James Wade and Peter Wright.
What do you think of Peter's outfit tonight, Stu? That's quite an eclectic mix of hair and clothing. I've never seen Peter wear this one before, so it's rather interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think 8 out of 10 for the hair, 2 out of 10 for the outfit, I'm afraid.
Looks like the kind of blancmange we used to get at first school back in the 80s.
He puts a lot of effort in, I'll give him that.
I remember Peter, when I first met him 7.5 years ago, he didn't have much hair, and he wore normal clothes. Things have changed. He's actually not Peter Wright on that stage anymore. He's actually Snakebite. He's actually separated himself from being Peter Wright up there. He actually said to me earlier on tonight that he modelled himself on what I did with my act, and I found that as a very, very big compliment.
Yeah, darting persona, that's for sure. Quite a few people will be surprised to know that away from the big darting stages, Peter Wright actually quite a shy chap, isn't he?
He very much is. He has a very quiet life where he lives in Lowestoft, and he's a very shy guy. He keeps himself to himself, but when he gets up there, he explodes.
James Wade for the opening leg, no trouble whatsoever. Impressive finish from James Wade, who actually has a really good record. So the amount of times that they play each other, the head-to-head 11-3 in James Wade's favour between these two. So Wade will know that. You know, players will tell you, oh, they can't remember the last time that they played player A or player B. You can be absolutely certain they can remember every match. Peter Wright will also be aware that he has a poor record against James Wade.
That's absolutely true. What you've got to realise about James Wade, that he has a very, very good memory about games he's lost and games he's won. And if he has a really good record over here, he is going to remember it without a shadow of a doubt. He's not just a machine on the dartboard, but he has a machine-like brain that remembers everything that happens in games in the past. What people don't probably know is that James has a very good record of playing in events in Australia before the World Series started. He won the William Cross Pro-Am back in 2008 at Shoalhaven Heads, New South Wales. So he really does feel comfortable playing in the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, they actually met here 12 months ago at this stage in the quarterfinals. Wade won a decider. 8-7, real close affair. Both had chances in the deciding leg. But James Wade here is putting a little bit of pressure on Peter Wright.
Peter going for the bullseye on that last dart. 105. If he hits the 25, leaves the 170, but a little bit of a bonus hitting the bullseye, leaves him 145. James trying to put the pressure on. He's left 160, so Peter's got to get pretty close to this. 60 is going to be his first shot, which he gets. He's going to go downstairs for 45, treble 15 now. Doesn't get it, so now treble 10.
Well, one of the best outshots I've seen all year came from Peter Wright in Japan, the Japan Darts Masters, in the fantastic semi-final win he had over Michael van Gerwen in a deciding leg with Van Gerwen sat on 44 to win. Peter Wright took out 141, quite brilliant. He needs 60 here to hold his throw, tops.
Tops it is for Wrighty. Great shot. Little flick off the first dart. I think that actually helped it. 1-all on throw. Funnily enough, when he hit the one with the first dart there, Stu, every dart player thinks, well, that's the one gone. You've got to hit an odd number at some point. You may as well hit it with the first dart.
100. For the world number 4, Peter Wright now. Career high world number 4 against James Wade, who just dropped a place down to number 6 in the world. But two of the very best, very, very consistent, both.
I was talking to Peter about 2 or 3 hours ago, and we were talking about his equipment changing reputation. He actually has a setup now which he hasn't changed for quite some time. I know that during the World Cup
he had 2 days.
he had the wobbly points at the World Cup, which he loved, but he's gone back to the ones that he had during the Premier League. But he feels that these are the ones, and I'm going to quote Peter Wright at this point. He says, these are the darts I'm going to use to win a world title. And it's very hard not to believe that, because he thoroughly believes that he's destined to win one.
Well, he's destined to win a big TV event. That's for sure. Not many people get the chance. Peter Wright has had a few chances, losing in finals at the World Championship, the UK Open, lost a couple of World Series finals as well, but you feel that it's only a matter of time. Maybe this year, 2015, that he breaks his duck and wins a big TV tournament.
It could well be this year. There's a lot of darts tournaments on television after this World Series is over. James Wade tops for 2-1, but he leaves his favourite because Peter's back on 186 and he can't finish that on this occasion. He's going to want to put the pressure on. 60 isn't enough on this occasion, because if you're going to put your money on anybody to hit double 10, it's going to be the machine. It's a perfect lie. Maybe not. Double 5. The 2-1. There it is.
I just like the way that James Wade is always... You see with some darts players trepidation when they're going for the double 5, but James Wade goes for double 10 so much that he's always aggressive when he goes for double 5, and you know, he gets it more often than not.
I think he's got a game plan. You notice with certain players that they have different areas of the board that they favour. With James, it's tops, it's 10s. He hits 5s a lot because he loves double top. He loves the top of the board. Consequently, his other favourite double is double 12. You don't see him a lot at double 18, and you don't see him in the bottom left corner at double 16 a lot. He has a game plan of how to get 501 points his way. Phil Taylor's the same. He has 2 favourite doubles. He doesn't have a favourite double. But James, he has a game plan every single time, no matter what points he has left.
Well, totally outscoring his opponent here. Wade averaging nearly 100. Yes, we're only in the 4th leg. Peter Wright struggling, just 82.5. But 6 140s already for James Wade. Haven't seen a single one from his opponent. And a real opportunity here for Wade to perhaps steal a march and break the throw, but dominant as far as the scoring is concerned.
You've got to think that James, winning the bullseye, would say to himself, I want to win this first leg. I want to keep my throw going into the break. And he's doing that at the moment, but he's putting Wright under pressure for 2 reasons. One, he's scoring higher, and secondly, Peter just isn't doing anything coming back to him, so he's making it a little bit easier for James. Wade's got time here. He won't like that 44, but Peter has a chance. He'll be looking for the 177 to leave tops. On this occasion, he's going to have to look for 2 trebles possibly, but he didn't want the treble 5.
117. The treble 19 would leave tops. Yeah, disappointing end to this leg from James Wade. He's just opened the door ever so slightly, hasn't he, for Peter Wright, who was a long way back, but he's going to have to produce something special here, Snakebite.
Well, that's the first part of the combination. Is he going to go for the treble again? He did, but he's got the 18 for bullseye. Pulled that in a big way.
Never felt that he felt confident going for that, but James Wade will be going for tops here. This for a break of throw, and never ever in doubt, was it? Wade breaks the throw, 3-1 up. A ruthless shake to the hands. I think he knows he should have won that leg more comfortably. I think he liked the fact that he allowed his opponent a dart to win it. But 3-1, and Wade in total control, you have to say.
Absolute control, Stuart. And you saw just before that leg started, a little shake of the head from Peter. He will be extremely annoyed, not just with the way that he's playing so far, but the fact that he gifted his throw to James in that fourth leg.
And of course, the first quarter-final, James Wade and Peter Wright. We saw Peter Wright beat Paul in the first round on the opening night here in Perth. What's happening with you? Where are you going to be? Because at the moment we know you're out of the world's top 32, so it's a slippery slope. Are you going to be heading back in the opposite direction?
Well, let's hope we do. I've got a lot of work to do. I think last night was a real marker to say where am I at the moment, and I was very disappointed with the performance last night. But there were some things to be positive. You know, I managed to get a couple of legs when I was 4-0 down, which showed a little bit of mental toughness. But getting back into that top 32 is probably going to be the hardest thing I've ever done as a dart player, because of the talent that we have in the game now is just so fantastic. Going forward, I've got a lot of challenges, you know, hopefully with the aid of, you know, equipment manufacturer and some great work with Steve Feeney, the coach of World Snooker Champion Stuart Bingham, we can hopefully get back into that top 32.
We'll talk a little more as the match goes on about Paul Nicholson's trials and tribulations, but here, James Wade looking at 70 to make it 4-1. One dart he'll have at tops.
Wadey will be furious with that. There's a lovely lie on that 20, just to flick it over the top, but Peter has to hit this. Double 16 for 3-2. Not a brilliant lie. He's going to have to go inside. Slight shift to the right. And again, he's going to be really annoyed with that.
Well, you're just wondering, those two darts, has Peter Wright chucked away any chance of getting back into this game? We shall see. Again, needs that double 5, aggressively goes for it, middle of the bed. I'll tell you, that is a brilliant dart, under a little bit of pressure as well from James Wade. 4-1, and at the moment it's just far too easy for the machine.
Far too easy indeed, and what Peter's got to do is get that first start in the 60 and give himself some confidence in visits. But as you can see on that occasion, the first start hits the 60. Peter has the ability with his darts to put them over the top, to the sides and underneath with the force that he's throwing them. But on this occasion, that was a bad 100. If he'd have hit the 60 on the last start, it would have been a good 100.
At the moment, James Wade dominating. Just finally, before we leave the subject of Paul Nicholson and his dart career, I think the one criticism, if you like, that we'll just see if James Wade can open his account, and he can with a perfectly timed 180 to pile more pressure on Peter Wright. Is that perhaps in the past reply from Peter Wright that you've possibly made something that's quite simple, very complicated, i.e. the sport of darts, overthinking things maybe?
That sounds like me, Stuart, it really does. I make everything too difficult for myself. There was a point in 2011 where it actually worked, but I think now it's a case of stepping back and making everything more simple. But it's bullseye for Wright, and it's bullseye it is. So that's the confidence booster that he needed, going right into the break. Perfect timing.
Yep, James Wade looked to be in control. That might be the finish, the moment to get Peter Wright started. We shall see. But he has a break of throw, and also the fact that Wade won the darts in the practice room, it means that Peter Wright has to break him twice to get back into this game and give himself a chance of winning.
Yes, he does. And I think that 1-2-6 could prove a pivotal moment, because if you're going to have a confidence booster in a game where you're not playing at your best, it's probably the best possible time to have that confidence boost was at that point. So he'll come back onto the stage after the break thinking, okay, let's get started now.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. 7th leg, James.
Well, first to 8. to go through to the semi-finals here in Perth, the second staging of the Perth Darts Masters 12 months ago. Phil Taylor in a brilliant final edged out Michael van Gerwen at 11-9, and we're expecting certainly the quarter-final, semi-final, final to be just as good. Peter Wright's picked it up, hasn't he? Noticeably. At one stage he didn't hit a 140 and Wade had 6, but he's hit 4 now. And James Wade hits his 8th 140. 97 average Wade, 91 Wright, but Wright has certainly picked it up a little, hasn't he?
He has. I think his throw has been slightly more deliberate since the start of the game. He's created this sort of rhythm over the last few months where it's been very repetitive and fluid. But I think tonight he needs to be a little bit more deliberate. But Wadey really is piling in these 140s. He seems to have a game plan tonight of just pummeling with 140s and get down to the sort of 81, 85 range after 9 darts. And that way, Peter Wright's going to have to hit a lot of 140s and 180s.
60 change required.
So channel 15 will be the target. These tops.
45.
James won't be worried about that. Peter back on 218, and there's only one option here. 180 puts some pressure on. But Wadey's still going to come back for one of his favourites. James looking very comfortable at the moment. Not just in the game, but looks like he's having fun up there. Can he hit double 10 this time? No, he can't, but double 5. Another one. Aggressive. Too aggressive this time. So Wright, unexpectedly, has a chance. Can he do it again? 2 legs in a row. 1-2-6 last time. Triple 20. Not to be. Wadey coming back for double 5.
James required 10.
Yeah, 4 out of 14 on the doubles for James Wade. Well, 3 legs is one with double 5, and 5-2 it is. He was dominant with the scoring in that leg, hence he got more chances at the end of it to win it, but it's a long way back for Peter Wright now.
If you notice the first start on double 5 for James there, what they usually say to people when they're talking about double 1 is 1 up, 1 in, and that first start was a perfect marker, and he will be thinking that. More pressure from Wade. Another 180 from James. He really is piling the pressure on Snakebite tonight. And Peter is running out of time. He's going to have to kick. He's going to have to kick now.
82.
Well, we talked a little bit earlier about Peter Wright's brilliant checkout, one of the best checkouts of the year. For me, James Wade produced one of the best performances of the year so far with his victory over Phil Taylor in the semi-finals of the World Match Play, and he's replicating, all right, it's a shorter distance here, but for me, he's replicating that performance when he just dominated his opponent for long periods of the game and didn't really let Phil Taylor get into a rhythm. And there's the Peter Wright camp, and just to the left, James Wade's new wife, Sammy.
What's really interesting for me is that the game with James and Phil at Blackpool was very similar for me to the 2-9 dart game. It was nip and tuck. But James, what a beautiful guide for double top for 6-2. Oh,
I think that's just 1 out of 7 on tops for James Wade in this match. He should return.
And he will return. But James's face was like 1,000 words there, as if to say, what was that? But he has a chance to rectify it. 3 darts in hand for tops. Right in the middle, nowhere near the wire. 6-2 it is. That would have got you a victory last night. He's got to go to 8 this time. He's got a 4-leg lead with another break.
Really good performance, you have to say, from James Wade. He has got his game head on, all right. Third 180, not normally known for heavy scoring as far as the maximums are concerned, but his 140s, 10 140s, 3 180s, 98 average, despite the fact that normally the strongest point of his game, his finishing, has been a little bit off.
Absolutely, and if you've got strengths like hitting doubles, and you've got a strong scoring game. If you put them both together, you have your A game. But on this occasion, James's scoring is getting him through this match, which means, you know, he's definitely got other gears, and that's got to be encouraging for James. If he potentially wins this match, he could win an awful lot more legs and possibly this tournament.
Well, at the start we thought it was too close to call. How wrong were we, but how wrong was everyone, because a lot of people thought this would go 8-6, 8-7 either way, and James Wade has proved everybody wrong with a dominant performance, as you could see in this quarter-final. Total frustration for Peter Wright.
That's the beautiful thing about darts, isn't it, Stuart? It's so unpredictable sometimes. James here, he's going to go treble 14 to leave tops, as he does. 9 out of 10 dart players would probably go for bull there, but James is so strong on treble 14 and double top, usually. That's his way, and that's part of his game plan.
It just looks very confident. He was hugely disappointed to lose that World Match Play final last month to Michael van Gerwen, but to be fair to Wade, he's played really well all year. Finally hits double 10 for the first time in the match, and that double 10 takes him a leg away from what will be a terrific victory. What a performance from James Wade.
We don't say that very often, do we, Stu? He's finally hit double 10. It's usually, oh, he's finally missed it. What's really interesting is that if you go back on some of the interviews that James has done, you know, when he's lost a lot of tournaments to Phil Taylor, he said, I would have been a millionaire if it wasn't for Phil Taylor. Well, it's a bit like the whole Phil Mickelson syndrome, isn't it? Now that, you know, people are beating Phil on more occasions, it's actually Michael van Gerwen that's costing him a lot more money. Like replacing Tiger Woods with Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, well, at the moment, Michael van Gerwen certainly is dominant. Van Gerwen against Van Barneveld to come.
That's always a fantastic match to watch. Whether they're playing for a packet of peanuts or whether they're playing for, you know, £100,000, I would pay to watch that match, and I'm sure everybody around the world and in the darting public would do the same. People from Perth are definitely doing that, because we're not far away from that game at this stage. James is in full control.
Now, so much so that here we are in the 10th leg. Peter Wright's only had 5 darts and a double in the entire game. A couple of those have been at the ball.
I think this is probably one of Peter's worst performances in a while. What he will do is he won't take it to heart. He will go straight back to the practice board and get his head on for next week in Sydney, because he knows that the World Series Finals is just around the corner, and he wants to be as high a seed as possible for that. He wants to back up what he did in Japan and what he did in Dubai. It doesn't look like it's going to be his week, but you never know. In order to have great comebacks, you've got to put yourself in these positions, so you just don't know.
Yeah, the World Series Finals in Scotland, in Glasgow, the Braehead Arena in November. Ticket information from the PDC website. Tickets still available, but here Peter Wright, who will be there, he will be playing there. We'll be hoping to extend this game into at least another leg, but two more missed darts at double.
Well, James has 100 to go through. Tops for the match. It's not a bad gate, it's nice and clear. And it's there. 8-2 James Wade.
Brilliant performance, you have to say, from James Wade. That really was. Peter Wright, the disappointment etched all over his face. Dominant from Wade, machine-like from the world number 6. Through to the semi-finals, and he'll play the winner of our next